What happened to the Garden of Eden? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is the first verse in the Bible, as you may know, and it represents the beginning of all creation. With His wisdom and brilliance, God created this magnificent world. Despite being a religious and spiritual concept, many people throughout history and even now believe it exists and can be found. Something incredible has just been discovered about this location that will change everything. In this video, we'll take a look at how a 6,000-year-old book revealed a terrifying discovery. There are numerous stories in human history about gods, angels, giants, and natural disasters. While these stories appear mythical at first glance, a closer examination reveals an alternate human history that most people have missed. If the Garden of Eden ever existed, that is one topic that is sure to spark a cold conversation. It may seem obvious to religious people, but even those who do not believe in the Christian God may believe in its existence. After all, there had to be some geographical location that validated the Bible stories. As a result, the debates. It has certainly piqued the interest of scientists who have been poring over ancient texts for hints and references that could aid in locating the garden. As it turns out, recent work in remote sensing, archaeology, and DNA studies have provided some strong clues as to where it is. And what they've discovered is truly terrifying. The Garden of Eden story uses mythical motifs to explain human evolution from a state of innocence and happiness to the current human predicament of knowledge of sin, sorrow, and death. The terrestrial paradise is described in Genesis chapter 2, verse 3, as well as in Ezekiel 28 and 31. Some claim that the name Eden is derived from the Akkadian phrase Edenu and the Sumerian term Edin, both of which mean plain or steppe. It also has an Aramaic root word that means fruitful, well-watered. In another interpretation, the name Eden is related to a Hebrew word for pleasure. Thus, the Vulgate translates Genesis chapter 2 verse 8 as Paradisum voluptatis. The Douay Rhymes Bible says, "And the Lord God had planted a paradise of pleasure." The garden is frequently alluded to by biblical authors as a lavish location filled with every luxury imaginable, which is why it is known as the Garden of God. It is said to be a paradise where nothing goes wrong, where there is no hunger, death, or sickness. Genesis describes Eden's location as the source of 4 tributaries. Numerous locations have been considered for its likely location due to its unique signature. These include Botswana and Armenia, as well as the Persian Gulf's head in southern Mesopotamia or modern Iraq, where the rivers Tigris and Euphrates meet the sea. Scholars have long disagreed on the precise location, but many have concluded that it could be an otherworldly area where the gods once lived. According to the Genesis flood account, the water from this hallowed garden is said to be the source of the Tigris and Euphrates River, both of which water the country around them, which is why many experts believe that the Garden of Eden must have been near these 2 rivers. Many have long sought its location based on clues provided in the biblical text, but the age-old mystery may have finally been solved. During Morgan Freeman's documentary, The Story of God, archaeologist Jody Magnus revealed how a discovery in a church in Jerusalem led her to believe that she had the answer. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is located in the Old City and is thought to be the location where Jesus of Nazareth was crucified and later resurrected, also known as Calvary or Golgotha. Dr. Magnus revealed that this was also the obvious burial site for Adam. The clue comes from beneath the rock of Golgotha, the rocky outcrop on which Christians believe Jesus was crucified, she said in 2017. Below is the Chapel of Adam, and there is a long-standing Christian tradition that connects this location to Adam, the first man. Jesus' blood flowed down through a crack in the rock when he was crucified on top of the rock above us. And Adam, the first man, lay buried beneath, but he was resurrected when Jesus' blood flowed onto him. This idea contradicts the Bible's description. The book of Genesis clearly associates 4 rivers with the garden: Pishon, Gihon, Chidakal, and Firat, implying that it was located in southern Mesopotamia, now known as Iraq. Dr. Magnus, on the other hand, explained how this could actually support a theory she has. Well, the version of the story that ended up in the book of Genesis appears to place the Garden of Eden somewhere in Mesopotamia. She continued, but I believe Adam had a special bond with Jerusalem. The Garden of Eden, or Paradise, is conceptualized as the location where God's presence dwells. The presence of God dwelled in the temple in early Judaism and the time of Jesus, which is why Jerusalem was conceived of as Eden at the time. Dr. Magnus was asked if she believes the Garden of Eden is a metaphor for the beginning of life and that the God's presence can be found anywhere. Well, yes, of course, she replied. Adam was the first human, and the word Adam means man in Hebrew. Also, removing the A leaves you with dam, which means blood in Hebrew. Adama means land, if you add AH at the end. The size of the Garden of Eden is not specified in the Bible. However, according to Genesis 2, it must have been large enough to house a diverse range of nephesh animals, while also being small enough for Adam to tend to on his own. The Garden of Eden is located near the confluence of 4 named rivers in Genesis 2, the Tigris, Euphrates, Pishon, and Gihon. The sources of these rivers are mentioned in Genesis 2, the land of Ashur, the land of Havilah, and the land of Cush, in that order. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers are still active today. The Pishon and Gihon dried up soon after the last ice age ended. The Persian Gulf is fed by all 4 rivers. They meet in the southeastern corner of today's Persian Gulf. This location is currently about 200 feet below sea level. It was above sea level for the majority of the last ice age. Eden, as good as it was vulnerable to evil, deception, and even death. This becomes clear when we consider that Satan inhabited the body of a common serpent and brought death into the otherwise perfect garden. In Revelation 21, John makes it clear that this will not happen in the future garden. It will be completely safe. God completed his work of creation and then rested. God was preparing something for Adam to look forward to when he finished his work of subduing the earth, exercising dominion over it, and filling it with image bearers. If Adam had faithfully completed the work, he, Eve, and their descendants would have entered a perpetual Sabbath rest. Before they sinned, Adam and Eve felt the joy of God's presence with them in the garden. One aspect of his presence with them, however, was the warning he gave them about the forbidden tree. When Adam and Eve heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day in Genesis, it was not as if God was taking his usual leisurely afternoon stroll in the garden. This was Judgment Day, which also meant Eviction Day for Adam and Eve. They could no longer live in Eden's holy sanctuary in the presence of a holy God because they had become an unholy people. But human sin could not derail God's plan to dwell with holy people in a holy land. Instead, God began devising a strategy to enable sinners to be made clean and holy in order to live in his presence. When we read about the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we might conclude that it must have been essentially evil, even foreboding. However, it was not prohibited because it was evil. It was evil because it was prohibited. God placed this tree in the garden to provide Adam and Eve with the opportunity to demonstrate genuine faith and obedience. While clinging to God's goodness, Adam and Eve could have used the wisdom God gave them through his word to judge the serpent's lies and rebellion against God as evil. Adam should have crushed the evil serpent's head right there and then, instead of joining the rebellion. He should have suppressed it. If he had, Adam and Eve would have been able to eat from the tree of life and enter a heavenly life without ever having to face death. And with that being said, it's time to end our video. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing videos like this. We'll see you again with another interesting video.